The year 2001, the United States, leading NATO, unleashed its military might on Afghanistan. Operation Enduring Freedom was a response to the September 11th attacks. Goals were to dismantle al-Qaeda, remove the Taliban, and liberate the Afghan people. The invasion toppled the Taliban government. A fleeting sense of optimism permeated the air, yet the narrative of liberation unraveled, revealing a protracted and futile war. While the stated objective of the invasion was to combat terrorism, a deeper analysis reveals a more complex web of geopolitical motivations. Afghanistan, situated at the crossroads of Central Asia, holds strategic significance due to its geographic location and its potential as an energy corridor. Control over Afghanistan offered the tantalizing prospect of projecting power into the energy-rich regions of Central Asia, a tempting prize for the energy-hungry West. Furthermore, a pro-Western government in Kabul could serve as a bulwark against Russian and Chinese influence in the region, effectively containing their geopolitical ambitions. The invasion, therefore, can be seen as part of a broader strategy to maintain Western hegemony in a rapidly changing world. It was a move designed to secure strategic assets, contain rival powers, and shape the geopolitical landscape in favor of the West. The invasion of Afghanistan, much like previous instances of imperial intervention, was characterized by a profound arrogance of power. The architects of this war, blinded by their own narratives of Western exceptionalism and military superiority, failed to grasp the complexities of Afghan society, underestimated the tenacity of their adversaries, and overestimated their ability to reshape a nation in their own image. The military strategies employed were equally flawed. The focus on high-tech warfare and overwhelming firepower proved ineffective in countering the Taliban's guerrilla tactics and their deep-rooted support within the Pashtun population. Furthermore, the reliance on corrupt warlords and a weak central government further alienated the Afghan people, undermining any genuine efforts at nation-building. The result was a self-defeating cycle of violence, instability, and resentment, which only served to strengthen the very forces the interventions sought to eradicate. The human cost of the Afghan war is immeasurable. 2 decades of relentless conflict have left the country in ruins, its infrastructure shattered, its economy in shambles, and its social fabric torn apart. Millions of Afghans have been displaced, forced to flee their homes and seek refuge in neighboring countries or within the relative safety of internally displaced persons camps. The war has also exacted a heavy toll on the civilian population. Thousands have been killed in crossfire, targeted killings, and suicide bombings. Countless others bear the physical and psychological scars of living through years of violence and displacement. The education system lies in tatters, depriving generations of Afghan children of the opportunity to learn and build a better future. The humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan stands as a stark indictment of the failure of the international community to protect civilians in conflict and to deliver on its promises of peace and reconstruction. The phoenix rises, the Taliban's resurgence amidst the ruins. While the US-led invasion initially drove the Taliban from power, it failed to extinguish the movement's ideology or eliminate its capacity to wage an insurgency. The Taliban, exploiting the widespread disillusionment with the Afghan government, the resentment towards foreign occupation, and the deep-seated grievances within Afghan society, gradually regrouped and rebuilt their strength. They skillfully exploited the porous border with Pakistan, finding safe haven and receiving support from elements within Pakistani intelligence agencies. The Taliban's resurgence was not merely a military victory, it was a political and ideological triumph. They successfully portrayed themselves as the only force capable of restoring order and resisting foreign occupation. Their victory is a testament to their adaptability, their deep understanding of the Afghan landscape, and their ability to exploit the missteps and miscalculations of their adversaries. A shifting global order, NATO's stumble, BRICS' opportunity. The 2021 withdrawal of US and NATO forces from Afghanistan marked a turning point, signaling the limits of Western military power. The chaotic exit left Afghanistan to the Taliban, tarnishing the West's image and exposing its inability to deliver stability. This retreat created a vacuum in Central Asia, quickly filled by other powers. China, with its Belt and Road Initiative, secured access to Afghanistan's resources, boosting its influence. The Afghan quagmire is a setback for the West, but an opportunity for rising powers to challenge the geopolitical order. A tale of two approaches: interventionism versus non-interference. The contrasting approaches of the West and the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, towards Afghanistan highlight a fundamental shift in global power dynamics. The West, led by the United States, has long adhered to a policy of interventionism, using its military and economic might to shape the world in its own image. This approach, often justified under the banner of humanitarian intervention or the promotion of democracy, has a long and troubled history, often leaving behind a trail of instability, resentment, and unintended consequences. The BRICS nations, on the other hand, generally advocate for a policy of non-interference in the internal affairs of other states. They emphasize the principles of national sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the peaceful resolution of disputes. Their approach, rooted in the principles of multipolarity and a rejection of Western hegemony, offers a stark alternative to the interventionist policies of the past. The BRICS blueprint economic cooperation and strategic partnerships. The BRICS nations, recognizing the failures of Western interventionism in Afghanistan, have adopted a different strategy, one based on economic cooperation, development assistance, and strategic partnerships. They view Afghanistan not through the lens of security threats and geopolitical rivalries, but as an opportunity for regional integration and economic development. China, with its vast infrastructure projects under the Belt and Road Initiative, aims to connect Afghanistan to global markets, unlocking its economic potential and creating new avenues for trade and investment. Russia, seeking to stabilize its southern flank, has engaged in security cooperation with Central Asian states to counter the threat of terrorism and extremism emanating from Afghanistan. India, with its historical and cultural ties to Afghanistan, has invested heavily in development projects, focusing on education, healthcare, and infrastructure, aiming to foster goodwill and build a more stable and prosperous Afghanistan. The BRICS approach, based on mutual respect, economic partnership, and a commitment to non-interference, offers a viable alternative to the failed policies of the past. The waning West, a fractured alliance, a diminished influence. The Afghan war has exposed the deep divisions and the diminishing influence of the West. The NATO alliance, once a symbol of Western unity and resolve, has been strained by disagreements over strategy, burden sharing, and the very purpose of the mission in Afghanistan. The chaotic withdrawal from Kabul further exposed the lack of coordination and the waning appetite for military intervention among Western powers. The United States, once the undisputed leader of the free world, has seen its credibility and influence erode in the wake of its military misadventures in the Middle East and Central Asia. Its domestic political landscape, increasingly polarized and inward-looking, has diminished its appetite for global leadership and its ability to forge international consensus. The Afghan debacle has accelerated the decline of Western hegemony, paving the way for a more multipolar world order. Towards a multipolar world, the rise of the rest. The shifting geopolitical landscape, evidenced by the rise of the BRICS nations and the relative decline of the West, heralds the emergence of a more multipolar world order. This new order is characterized by a diffusion of power, with multiple centers of influence competing and cooperating on the global stage. The BRICS nations, with their growing economic clout, their demographic weight, and their assertive foreign policies, are challenging the traditional dominance of the West in international institutions and global governance. They offer a different model of development, one based on South-South cooperation, mutual respect, and a rejection of Western hegemony. This multipolar world, while fraught with its own challenges and uncertainties, holds the promise of a more equitable and just international order. One where power is more evenly distributed and where the voices of the global South are heard and respected. Conclusion: a new era dawns. Lessons from the Afghan quagmire. The NATO intervention in Afghanistan stands as a cautionary tale, highlighting the limits of military power and the human cost of misguided foreign policy. Afghanistan grapples with the legacy of conflict and shattered dreams. For the West, the Afghan quagmire has exposed flaws in strategic thinking and the fragility of alliances. The international community must embrace diplomacy, cooperation, and respect for sovereignty.